G'day, mates, and welcome back to Mr. Sitter Podcast with me, Locash. What's going on? Turns out I have COVID. Yay! Second time. I've somehow avoided COVID since the first time of getting it last December, where I unfortunately could not spend Christmas with my family, but I've avoided it all year despite doing a national comedy tour and going away to both Indonesia and Greece, so had to bite me at some point. Turns out it was Avoca Beach that granted me the privilege of succumbing to this pandemic once again. But in a weird twist of events, if you know me or my history with immune system issues and just how often I get sick, I'm actually fine. Yeah, yesterday was the worst of it, really, and now I feel totally asymptomatic. But I am going to be staying indoors today, so don't worry. I don't believe COVID, as of yet, is sonically transmittable, so you will not be receiving it from me. Please keep listening to the podcast, because I have a lot to say about the two matches that I watched overnight, and I don't know what I had a big ass nap yesterday. I was just knocked out and I had to sleep for 3 hours, and I think that may have given me the energy, because I got to admit, I've been really struggling to keep up with the games. I've been watching them, but I've been like, I've dripping out of sleep. I watched both games overnight, full attention, full energy, and I guess that's probably because I had a decent amount of investment in both, but who knows. Nonetheless, let's crack on. The first game was a game that I was really looking forward to, because I thought of all of the round of 16 games, it could be the one to throw up the biggest storyline and the most heartwarming, I guess, surprise. Unfortunately, it was the opposite, and one of my favorite teams of the entire tournament will be licking their wounds and going home in heartbreaking fashion. Japan losing on penalties to Croatia after it ended 1-1 in normal time. Japan are a really, really good team, guys. They are fully worthy of having topped a group that contains two former world champions in it. And, having lost to Costa Rica quite flukily, I must admit, it could have been even easier for them. And they really could have beaten Croatia here. But we'll never know. They've got some really, really good players, young core that they can build around moving forward, and I look forward to seeing Japan in the next World Cup, and indeed the Asia Cup and all of those competitions moving forward. The first half they were 1-0. They were actually all over Croatia. Croatia couldn't really get the ball off them. Japan just couldn't make that decisive final move, mostly because Josko Gvardiol is a fucking brick wall, and he was very, very difficult to penetrate. And as has been the problem with Japan for this entire tournament, they have no traditional, I suppose would be the best way to describe it. They have no traditional number 9. Maeda was good, but his goal here was a poacher's goal, and he is not a kind of hold the ball up focal point for the team that you need from a traditional number 9 at times, and I think Japan lacking that really, really undid them. But Maeda of Celtic did score a cool little finish from a ball in from the right, and Moriyasu, the coach for Japan, who was actually the assistant coach for Japan in the 2002 World Cup. I didn't know that until the commentator said it. I've got so much praise for this guy. He went and he bowed to the Japanese fans in defeat, gave a kind of rousing looking speech to the players once they had been eliminated, and tactically, I think he's been so good in this tournament. He's set up Japan to play in a multitude of different ways depending on their opposition. They're lucky to have depth that a lot of teams don't have. They had always a few bench options that could actually change the game, and in fact did change the game in multiple scenarios. And he didn't have a set starting 11 and always throw the same people on. He would have he would choose different players depending on their opposition, whether or not they wanted to dominate possession or they wanted to hit on the counter. And against Croatia, despite Croatia having three of the best midfielders in the entire tournament, Moriyasu set up to dominate possession, and they totally did in the first half. But I think he made a mistake in his selection here, because he kept Asano, Mitoma, and Tanaka on the bench and started Ritsudoan, who has been Japan's best player in this tournament, in my opinion. So you understand why he started him. But Ritsu is probably the only player who I call him Ritsu. We're friends. He's probably the only player who can actually hold the ball, because he's like, they're all small. He's small too, but he's the only one that seems to be able to use his center of gravity to be able to hang on to the ball, to turn players, to win fouls, and he did that. And I felt like later on, Japan were lacking dearly in terms of strength and power, and that would rear its head in their defeat. But we'll talk about that in a second. Late on, Japan just couldn't retain the ball later in the game, and I get the impression that Doan probably would have hit a good penalty if he were on. Probably Kamada and Maeda too, but they all were off when the penalty shootout arrived, and I think that might have been an error. But then again, you can say to me, Croatia took off Kovacic, they took off Modric, they took off Kramaric, all who probably could have also hit really good penalties too. So you think maybe it was even, but the penalty shootout was certainly not even. We'll get to that in a second. Croatia came back in the second half. They were clearly the dominant team, but again, no cutting edge, and that's been Croatia's issue in this tournament too. Without the likes of Mario Mandzukic, and if you look a little bit further back, Ivica Olic, both of whom are like assistant coaches on the bench. I've seen them walking around doing shit with lanyards and whatever. Without them, they just don't have the right penetration, so they struggled to break down Japan, who was still really, really good defensively. That's not to take anything away from them. Gonda had no chance with the goal that Perisic scored. It was the perfect header to go along with Mitch Duke's header, and there's one other header that I can't recall, that was absolutely fucking perfect. And Gonda was unlucky because Gonda had a magnificent game. He made a mistake against Costa Rica, but other than that, he's been fantastic in this tournament. Made one amazing save on Modric late on, and yeah, it went to extra time, and there was not one single second of extra time in which I thought this is not going to go to penalties. It was like they were so desperate, both teams, to just not lose, that they seemed to both be really content to go into penalties, which for Japan was a big mistake. Japan really should have gone all out to beat them in extra time and even risk losing, because once I got a look at those Japanese players kind of lining up and doing their huddle before the penalty shootout, I thought to myself, they're going to miss every single one. They're not even going to score one of them. And that was wrong. They scored one, but they really shouldn't have. They hit a collection of the weakest penalties I've ever seen in my life, and this is what the issue with the Japanese players physically resulted in, because, yes, these players are fast, they are agile, they have amazing acceleration, they have great skill to get away in tight spaces. They are all really, really smart players, but none of them are particularly powerful, none of them are particularly strong, and you kind of need that for penalties, and you need conviction, and they seem to not have conviction. Croatia, on the other hand, in the last World Cup, in the knockout rounds, they made it through, I believe, Switzerland and Russia on penalty shootouts. They have experienced players, they've been there, they've done that. The penalties were atrocious. Minamino started, his penalty sucked. Mitoma's penalty was unfortunately terrible. I love that player, but his penalty sucked. Asano's was also bad, but Livakovic went the wrong way for it. If he had just gone that way, he would have saved that one too. And then Maya Yoshida, captain of the team, did a shit penalty too. All the headlines will be about Livakovic, and yeah, credit to him, he saved 3 penalties, but I probably could have saved those 3 penalties. They were really, really bad. And the only reason why they lasted long enough for Maya Yoshida to hit one is because Livaya, who plays for Hajduk Split, striker for Croatia, hit, like he looked at the other Japanese penalties and said, well, I bet you I can do a worse one. So he took like one step, as casually as you like, without even breaking a facial follicle, passed it and it hit the post, and then he like shrugged afterwards. I wanted to slap the fuck out of this guy. It's a World Cup, bro. What the fuck are you doing? That was really bad. And Croatia go through. Croatia, who are at the tail end of this golden generation, I can't see them doing well. Whether they're definitely not going to do well anymore in the tournament, but we'll get to there in a second. But I can't see them doing well moving forward. I don't see a core of good players there. I see a handful. Borna Sosa, the left back, who was sick today, he's pretty good. Lovre Maya in the midfield, he's pretty good too, but he's no Modric. Kovacic, who isn't really that old, he'll stick around for a while. Or Brozovic, he's nowhere near the level of those players. Decent with the likes of Livakovic. He's okay as goalkeeper, and Josko Guardiola is totally world class. He'll be one of the best defenders in the world sooner rather than later. But other than those guys, I don't see too much in the Croatia team. Japan, on the other hand, it's a nation footballing wise that's on the rise for sure. All those young players that I mentioned, the likes of Doan, Kamada's still young. Mitoma is super duper young. And then you've got players that stepped up even though they weren't super heralded, the likes of Endo, Ito, Morita. These guys are all playing in Europe. Most of them playing in Germany. One of them, I can't remember exactly which one of the ones that I just mentioned, plays with Sporting Lisbon. Like, they're a team on the rise, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what comes out of them. They bow out of this tournament with their heads held high, as really most of the teams that made the round of 16 should have, other than probably Poland. And yeah, I'm really excited for them, and sad that they went out because I was hoping that they would beat Croatia, who are fucked. Okay? Croatia are fucked with a capital F-U-C-K, guys. Because the other game that we saw this morning was, of course, Brazil, South Korea. I wasn't super duper looking forward to this one because I figured it would go exactly the way it went. A highly entertaining, if quite one-sided first half, and then a very, very difficult to watch second half, which is exactly what it was. 4-1 is how the game ended. Brazil were up 4-0 by the 39th minute, and once Vinicius Jr. scored, he opened the scoring, Brazil totally ran away with it. The goal that Vini scored, by the way, it was reasonably close range, but such a difficult finish. The cross came in for him. He controlled it once. Then he waited the perfect amount of time to draw all of the Korean defenders over so that he could just tap it into the space that they left behind them, into the corner, keeper unsighted, 1-0. And from there, it was pandemonium. The interplay between Neymar, Vini, Richarlison, Paquetá, Rafinha, and Casemiro from deep, just like slick, delicious, astonishing, so hard to get a handle of. I loved the Richarlison goal in particular. I love it when you've got a slick passing move that goes back and forward as opposed to just bang, 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 straight direct in, because that really shows patience and guile and things that they've worked on in training. Really love that. Great to see my boy Lucas Paquetá score a goal. This is a player that I've been a really big fan of for a long time. Unique in this Brazil team. He's a all-rounder midfielder, and he scored a cool goal with his weaker right foot. He wasn't very good against Serbia. He's steadily gotten better, and he was really good today. And he's the perfect gel because Neymar is not a midfielder, but Neymar plays as that attacking midfielder. Casemiro plays as that anchor. You need Paquetá to link it all together, and he did perfectly today. And I'm glad for him because he is going to end this month with a World Cup winners trophy, medal that is, and the trophy. He doesn't get to personally keep the trophy, but he'll get a medal. And he'll be happy playing with these players because after that he's got to go back and play with Aaron Cresswell and Craig Dawson and Kurt Zouma. And fuck, that West Ham move really did not work out for this guy, or Gianluca Scamacca. Very, very sad. I mean, if you look at the history of clubs that do really, really well in European competition and hang their hat on that, having done well in the league in previous years, in any of the big competitions, as in the big leagues, there will invariably be a dip in the league the year after, and that's exactly what's happened to West Ham. They had a remarkable Europa League run last year, and they just haven't been good this season. And unfortunately, Paqueta's come at the wrong time, and he's a player that is deserving of a much, much bigger status than playing for West Ham. I love West Ham. Like I'm as much a West Ham supporter as any other team in England, but they're shit. And it just goes to show the skewedness that the extra TV money that the Premier League is pumping in grants the game, because Lyon, as far as I'm concerned, are a bigger club than West Ham. Lyon they won 7 titles back to back in the mid 2000s. They're like my French team, and Paqueta moves from them to West Ham in a big money move, and his career just I don't know, I worry about it. But this is the state of things. This is the state of the elite in football just peeling so far ahead of the middle class of football that this is what we're going to be dealing with. A lot of players falling between the cracks, and Paqueta may well be one of them. And that has kind of been symbolized in the international game as well, because I'm telling you guys, I've been telling you the whole time, I told you before the tournament, Brazil are a notch above every single other team in this tournament by some considerable distance, except maybe France on their day. The difference being that France are so heavily reliant on Kylian Mbappe, and Brazil are reliant on nobody. Yes, they are so much better when Neymar is purring, but they're a lot better. Their individual components are a lot better, and their defense is really good. Their defense was really, really good today. Thiago Silva was great. Marquinhos was great. Danilo at left back, my boy. People that only watch the Premier League will not know this, but Danilo has turned into one of the best all-round defenders in Europe since coming to Juventus, particularly since the Pirlo season. He's really, really good, and as evidenced by today, him slotting in at left back. He's played right back. He may even play centre back at some point in this tournament. He's been playing centre back all season for Juve. He's really, really good. He's going to be crucial to them. The only defender that had a little bit of a ragged time this afternoon was Eder Militao, who played at right back as an emergency option because both of Brazil's left backs are injured, which facilitated Danilo going to left back. And Eder Militao was given a bit of a rough time by Juan, who was the only energetic player for Korea all game. He was really good, the Wolves player. But we give Eder Militao a pass because even though he's super fast, he's not a right back. Their defense is excellent, and even if somebody penetrates their defense, they've got one of the best goalkeepers in the world behind them. They're taking it, guys. They're taking it. This was a statement victory, absolute statement victory. Let's not forget, Korea are not a bad team. Korea were made to look like a bad team, but if you know football, you'll see that Korea, even today, Korea weren't bad. They were just dominated by the best team in the world in the international game. We're talking about a Korea team that rightfully qualified for the round of 16, beating Portugal and qualifying ahead of Uruguay and Ghana. They were in a tough group. In Son Heung-min, they have a bona fide world-class player, and I can't definitively say that this Korea team are worse than the likes of Australia or USA or Senegal or Poland, who were all defeated pretty handily, but not to this degree, by the other big contenders left in the tournament. I think it's going to be a fucking cakewalk for Brazil. And it's only unfortunate that they are drawn against Croatia in the next round, who are definitely... let's assume for the sake of argument that there will be no surprises this morning and you'll see Portugal and Spain go through. Croatia are by far the weakest team left in the tournament. And it's a shame that Brazil will play them instead of playing like a real heavy hitter because, it's theirs, guys. It's theirs, and I hope that people don't try and take it away from them when they win the whole thing. And they're like, yeah, but they didn't play a good team until the semi-finals where they play against Argentina or the Netherlands. We'll see. My money's kind of still on Argentina, but we'll see how that goes. This World Cup isn't even going to be close. Brazil are going to fuck everybody. They're going to bring the World Cup trophy to Pele's bed for him to kiss it on the head. Any quick other business today all revolves around Cristiano Ronaldo. It had been reported that he had actually signed on to Al Nassr. I can't remember the exact figures, but I do remember that it was something like he'll be earning £26 a second while he's there. So just like absolutely ludicrous money. It was reported that it was a done deal. Piers Morgan, Cristiano Ronaldo's BFFL, came out and said this is fake news. It has not been it's not been reported by Fabrizio Romano, so it is fake news as far as I'm concerned. And I really, really hope he doesn't go. You know, I've been talking a little bit of shit about Ronaldo recently, but I have to admit, I've been trying to empathize with the guy. He lost a child. We're trying to get into his mindset. Yeah, he did a lot of dick-headed, pig-headed, out-of-touch things well before this tragedy befell him, but his mindset and his general happiness has been clearly cataclysmically rocked since this has happened. So I feel really bad for him, but I just can't understand his personal motivation in going to Saudi Arabia. He doesn't need the money. We all know he doesn't need the money. There is no prestige footballing-wise from going to Saudi Arabia. So please don't do it. Don't go. You know, it was reported today that 3 men, members of the Huatate tribe, who are a kind of local, not nomadic, but they're a villager tribe within Saudi Arabia. They were asked to leave their homes in Saudi Arabia in one particular region to make room for a futuristic city that has been designed personally. It's the brainchild of Prince bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, that will cost a reported $500 billion US. The 3 men refused to leave their homes, and they have now been sentenced to death because of it. And their families have been threatened with imprisonment for life. It's not a good place. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are good people that live there, but it's not a good place to be. And if you can make the choice as a global ambassador, as a role model for a lot of people around the world, I really, really hope that he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia. Tonight, we have the final round of 16 fixtures. We have Portugal versus Switzerland. We have Spain versus Morocco. I got to admit, guys, I am not looking forward to watching Portugal-Switzerland. I believe I've mentioned this once or twice on this podcast, but it's going to be the most boring fucking game of the entire tournament. And yeah, I'm predicting a 1-0 victory to Portugal with a penalty that Ronaldo will dispatch on the 81st minute, and the Swiss will be very upset. And until then, it's going to be a real, like, 2-chance game. Not looking forward to that one at all. I am looking forward to Spain-Morocco, because Morocco are a really cool team, and our last hope to have a true upset in this group, in this round of 16. Even though Morocco came first and Spain came second, we know the pedigree of Spain, and we know that Morocco on the world stage has not really done well ever. Morocco have got some exceptional players. They played some exceptional football in the group stage, and we saw that Spain can be gotten at. They only won 1 game. They lost 1 to Japan, who, again, I can't definitively say are better than Morocco, so we will see how it goes. I'll be pumping for Morocco, and then if Morocco get eliminated and it's just a final 8 of just pure heavyweights, no underdog has made it through, then I'm just going to wear my Brazil jersey for every single match moving here on out, because they're going to win it. Just a heads up as well before I leave you guys. The tournament is drawing to a close. It's going to be on for another week and a half. I'm not sure if I'm going to do episodes on the days where there are no games, because frankly I'm really tired, and there's not too much to talk about that isn't the World Cup at the moment. But we'll see. If thoughts occur to me, maybe. I did say that there would be daily episodes during the World Cup, not specifically that there would be episodes on days where there were games. So we may be doing it. But when the World Cup does end, I'll do a big recap episode. And then Mr. Sitter will be coming back as the former podcast that I used to do. I'll be doing it once a week, maybe even twice a week, previewing the matches from the weekend, doing little reviews of all of the funny shit that happened in the Premier League, Serie A, and beyond from the previous weekend. And I will be following up what I used to do on the Kevin Lasagna podcast by profiling really funny incidents and people throughout the history of football. So if you like that, or if you think one of your friends might like that, make sure to pass this podcast along, like and subscribe to the YouTube and all of that stuff, and look out for the podcast, because I'll be putting a lot of effort into it, and I like doing this. So if you like it, let people know. And there's no need to stop listening after the World Cup. So cool. Remember always to raise your daughters before, going online and telling somebody that they're a fuckwit for an opinion on the Socceroos that you misunderstood. Make sure you raise your daughters first. Then once you raise your daughters, you can please I welcome it. This has been Mr. Sitter. I'm Anthony Locascio. Ciao.